All right, continuing my look at the Clone Wars. So the second episode of this season was the Rising Malevolence. And this one is, well, it's basically a rescue mission. You've got you got a Jedi general and his clone troopers, and they're investigating a separatist vessel that has a new super weapon. That does seem to be, at least how they fired it, it seemed similar to the Death Star technology, but that's not what it is. It's basically an electromagnetic pulse type deal. They fire it off, and the Republic ships just lose all power, and they're basically sitting ducks, and the droids start to pick them off. They try to escape in their pods, but there's still no power, and they're sort of stuck there waiting, and then the droids go to each life pod, escape shuttle, whatever you call them, and just crack it open and dump them into space. It's really quite a horrific death when you think about it. Here it is, it's this cartoon show. And they're just, the guys are going out into space and everything. And it's like, damn, it's pretty hardcore here. And I'm forgetting the guy's name. I'm sorry. And I recognized him. He unfortunately meets his ultimate end. Or did he? Yeah, I think he did. And Revenge of the Sith. But here he is, and it looks like it's all over, but they're putting out a signal for hopefully to have help. Now, the help comes in the form, seemingly, from Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan. And this is where, I'm assuming this is where Ahsoka Tano was introduced for the most part. Now, again, I understand that apparently the episodes are not exactly in chronological order and sequence or what have you, but I'm not going to mess with that. I'm just going as it's presented within the collections of the season. So there she is, and she was often one used by people who knew this better than I did, because I didn't watch these shows. I only knew the movies. But that she was a better example of a female Jedi character story being laid out and told, rather than how they did it with Rey, who gets no story at all and no development. So here we get very early of her beginnings here. And so she's young, she's a freshman Jedi, a Padawan, all that. And so, of course, she's sort of making some mistakes. Her heart's in the right place, and she's impatient, which is typical of the young student and all this sort of thing. And she has to, listen to reason to her teacher here, which is, interestingly enough, Anakin Skywalker. Of course, Anakin had been the one that we had seen was the student having to learn from, well, I guess initially Qui-Gon, but mostly from Obi-Wan. And we saw that, of course, in Attack of the Clones, which is sort of the jumping off point of this whole Clone Wars story. It's where the war begins. And then you see him mature somewhat, and, he's mature, but he kind of falls back into, that, arrogance and, and not respecting the authorities that were trying to teach him how to be and all that sort of thing. Of course, his motives for saving Padme and all it blinded him and what have you, the dark side and all that. But here we're seeing a side of Anakin we didn't really get to see a lot of in the films, which is a mature Anakin, who's actually now he's in Obi-Wan's position because he now has an apprentice or the Padawan himself, and he has to teach her the ways of the Force, and he has to teach her how to handle this and what's the best tactics and whatnot while they're in this war. And so it's a fascinating little display, and it's, after sitting through the Disney sequels, it's like, good Lord, it's all mapped out for you right here in this very simple, not even a 30-minute episode. It's less than that. I think it was, 26 or 28 minutes, something like that. And, there's some things about Ahsoka you first introduce, and I'm thinking, oh, God, I can't stand her voice. She's just this kid and everything. But, of course, she's supposed to be. One of the things about Anakin, that one of the complaints that I didn't think were fair for the prequels, was that, he's this arrogant teenager. And I said, yeah. That's the age he is. That's what he would be, and his power makes him arrogant as well, So that's what you get. Of course, Ahsoka, I think, is much nicer than Anakin was, and but both, they have this compassion that drives them and whatnot, and it's rather heartwarming, if you will, where I think he sees a bit of himself in her, and that she wants she's desperate to save her allies here, or the troops and the Jedi Master and all this. And he understands it, and he wants to do the same thing. He's just saying, look, there's a better way to do this and all that. And ultimately, they do, of course. They're able to get there in time, but not before there's some really cool scenes where the Jedi Master says, look, I'm going to wipe out these droids. I can survive out there for a little while. So he goes out in space, and the troopers, they suit up with their helmets and everything so they can go out with him. And make short work of him ultimately. It's pretty good. And they're just droids, so who cares? So he chops up their ship with his lightsaber, and then uses the Force to just shove them away. So, and then finally Anakin shows up. They almost get caught up in the same problem with the super weapon, the EMP weapon, but they managed to make it by right out of the seat of their pants and escape into hyperspace, and all's well. So it's a good little adventure within a vignette again within the overall conflict of the war itself. So you get little snippets here and there, and it's how the story progresses within Clone Wars. So yeah, for what it is, it's another good one. And I mean, look, I get used to, like, I'm not a fan of the 3D animation. There's only a few. Some of them they irritate me for some reason. And this one, a little bit, but after a while, it's fine. You move on. Plus, I mean, like, especially with the ships and everything, it looks pretty much like what you saw in the movie, and then of course the cool sound effects that Star Wars has and all that. The music's good too. It's not John Williams, but it's attempting to fit into that, and it makes a good effort to do it. So yeah, I guess I'm, after all this time, finally on board with Clone Wars. So there we go. Rising Malevolence, another home run for the Clone Wars series. Thank you for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you, especially over at indieplanet.com, where you can pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yes. You can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, over at radiomisfits.com. New episodes every Saturday. And you can watch my videos over at BitChute. That's BitChute.com.